Hey mamas, thanks for joining us here at the Mom Desk Club and welcome to my desk. I hope that you have a cup of coffee ready and that you are able to come and sit down and chat with us for a little bit because I am very interested in today's topic. This is season 1, episode 8 of the balancing act, learning how to balance motherhood and a work at home career. And for this very last episode of the season, we're going to discuss recognizing and combating burnout. So this whole episode is going to be dedicated to all of the work at home moms who are most likely finding themselves very overextended and learning how to not only recognize the signs of burnout, but also learn how to add that to the balancing act. Learn how to recognize the signs of burnout, but then also how to kind of bring yourself back in, how to put that into the balancing act, how to add burnout to the balancing act. So in this episode, we're going to explore all the signs, the symptoms, and the tips that we can use to manage it, and then we'll have a discussion down in the comments about your tips and your tricks for managing burnout as well. Whenever I think about burnout, one of the most probably prominent things I think about is a guy named Grant Cardone. You may or may not have heard of him. My husband has gone through a huge Grant Cardone phase for the last several years, so we've read a ton of his books, we've watched a ton of his videos, love him or hate him. He is a very interesting person to follow. One of the things that that's always kind of stuck with me is he kind of has this stigma against burnout. In a lot of the things I've listened to of his, he kind of talks about how burnout is, you get stuck in burnout when you don't love what you're doing. And if you're excited about your life and you're excited to be doing what you're doing, you're going to wake up and you're going to be energetic and you're going to be ready to go. I agree with it and I don't agree with it. There are aspects to that I think are true. I think that a lot of times we get stuck in this rut and we don't really know how to get out of it. And we would do well to make some changes and change the rut. And it would make it a lot easier to not have to deal with burnout. But also, I think that there's a whole different perspective when you're a work at home mom because there is a lot of things to get burnt out about and you can't always change your circumstances, and that doesn't make waking up any easier. And so I think that it's important to remember that burnout is a real thing, but like everything, we don't want to become a victim to our situations and our circumstances and our feelings and our emotions. And I am not ever going to slap burnout on my sleeve as a scarlet letter and feel sorry for myself. But as we start discussing the signs and the symptoms of burnout, it can be really important to recognize those into yourself and say, maybe I need to make some changes. And sometimes those changes could be really simple changes, like, I don't know, drinking water and eating food and sleeping. The 3 core things that we need as humans, and that for some reason as work at home moms we tend to forget a lot. So let's dive in first to the signs and the symptoms of burnout so you can recognize if maybe you are slipping into an unhealthy pattern, and instead of going from one ditch to the other, maybe we can find a way to go right down the middle and be a little easier on ourselves. The trick about being a work at home mom is there's a lot of multitasking, a lot of blurred lines between work life and home life and family life, and so recognizing the certain signs of burnout can really help because there's so many different things that you're juggling in this balancing act. So the first sign of burnout is exhaustion, even after a full night's sleep. If you are waking up, now this isn't just like a one-time deal, and this can also be really difficult if you've got some small children that you're waking up with a lot in the middle of the night. But let's say you're getting full night's rest every night or most nights and you're still feeling exhausted in the morning. That can be a sign that maybe you need to cut back on something. The second sign of burnout is decreased performance. So if you notice, and I'm sure you have because I do this, you get to this spot where you're so overextended that you are literally staring at your computer screen trying to work and you literally can't even summon up enough oomph to do the thing you need to do. And it's not even so much about just like, oh, well, just dig deep and get the focus and get your job done. Sometimes your brain is just so wore out that you can't even summon up the performance. I've been in this place plenty of times, and that can be a sign that you need to make a change. Another sign of burnout is isolation. If you recognize that you're pulling away from places and people that have maybe brought you a lot of joy in the past, or even just people in general, that can be a sign of burnout. And as a work at home mom, it can be really hard to recognize that because there is a lot of isolation. But if you've got activities that you normally enjoy participating in and now you're not, that can be a sign. The next one's That's kind of funny. The next sign of burnout can be irritability. So if you are constantly feeling irritable at your children or at your husband or at your employees, that can be a sign that you could be dealing with burnout. Now, I'm not one to go making excuses. So sometimes if you're dealing with irritability, it could just mean that you are being cranky and you need to go get things right and get it fixed and change your attitude. That's just kind of a real part of life. I know that you know those days where you are being cranky and you know you shouldn't be and you know you need to be changing your attitude. But let's say you get stuck in this rut of irritability and exhaustion and your performance is really low. Then maybe we need to take into account that the irritability isn't just you're having an off day. Maybe it's something a little more important that you need to pay attention to. And the last symptom of burnout is health issues. So this can be digestive issues, it can be headaches, or other physical symptoms that you're experiencing in your life that you didn't have before. Now you do. Combine that with all the other symptoms, and that could be a sign that you're dealing with burnout. Now we have looked into the signs of burnout. What next? What are you supposed to do? Here are a few things that you can do to help combat burnout and hopefully make a difference in your life. Start with establishing some boundaries. This can be in your work life, this can be in your home life, this can be with your family. But establishing some boundaries and saying no to a few things can really, really help. I, for myself, noticed that, my husband and I, we started a business, and those first couple years in that business were really intensive and really hard because it was just the two of us. But we have slowly been bringing on more and more people, and we joke that we're trying to fire each other, but really we're trying to fire each other because we've put so many hours in over the first 3 years of the business that we needed a break. We were both getting really run down over the business and we needed a break, and it felt really lazy to be trying to get to that break, but it was really important because we both needed that for our own sanity. So we slowly started hiring things out, and part of setting boundaries is hiring people to take on your responsibility that you don't have to do. There are some things you have to do. Nobody else can do those things for you. There are some things you can hire out, and that can be a way of setting a boundary. Other things could be setting boundaries with certain people. Maybe it's setting a boundary with your children and saying, listen, I'm not picking up the slack anymore. This is something that you're capable of doing. This is something that you get to be responsible for now in your life. And we're going to work on getting you to that point of being responsible. Sometimes it's saying no. There are certain events, and I'm not saying that I'm great at this, but I also don't feel like I run into it nearly as much in regards to relationships and events. Not yet. I'm sure I've got plenty of time for that. But sometimes it's a matter of saying no. No, you're not going to be on that team or a part of that club. Be a part of my club though. Be a part of the Mom Desk Club. But maybe it is a matter of saying, I can't take on any more tasks within this activity anymore. I can't teach any more classes in that co-op anymore. I can't overextend myself for this season right now because I am needing to focus on getting some rest, and I need to get back to the basics, and I can't manage that anymore. It's too much for my life right now, and maybe I can come back to it in a different season, but right now I need to stop. So saying no, setting boundaries, that could be in your future. Oops, I kind of bled into point 2. But the next point is to delegate responsibilities. Okay, so I kind of blended those two together, but delegating responsibilities and setting boundaries go hand in hand when trying to combat burnout. They're both really important aspects of combating burnout. When you can set boundaries and tell people no and tell things no and delegate those responsibilities, that lifts a huge load off of a work-at-home mom's shoulders. And you might have to get creative, and you might have to find other people in your life who can help you do those things. But I promise it's worth it. I don't know if you've ever experienced this. I'm sure you have. I'm sure I'm not alone in this. But there's always that moment right at the beginning of needing to make a change where you think, oh my goodness, there is no way I can make this change. It's going to take forever, and I'm never going to recover. It's going to take forever to get this over. Maybe it's going to take forever to train somebody, a new employee, or it's going to take forever to train a team member, or it's going to take forever to train my child on how to potty train. Yeah, that's what I've got coming up soon. And I've got this mental picture in my head that it's going to take me forever to train them how to go to the bathroom. But once you jump into it, have you ever noticed that it happened a lot easier than you thought? Sometimes part of delegating responsibilities feels like it's going to take an overwhelming amount of effort from you. But if you can put in a little bit of work at the beginning, it buys you so much time on the other side. So I promise, delegating responsibilities is worth it. Find ways to do it. The third tip for combating burnout is self-care. Now, I know I have gone on a self-care rant before on these videos and on the podcast. I have a love-hate relationship with self-care because I feel like, especially here in America, we make this huge deal about self-care. But I feel like a lot of times when people are referring to self-care, they're not really talking about things that actually give them energy or actually combat burnout. Is getting a pedicure a bad thing? No. But most likely, you're not going to be able to justify getting a pedicure every day, every week, and that's not going to help you any. That being said, I think self-care is just taking care of your body. Duh. It doesn't mean lavish and ridiculous or over the top things. Sometimes it's just the basics. Are you drinking enough water? Probably not. Are you eating everything that you need to be eating in a day? I'm gonna guess no. Are you getting enough sleep? Most likely not. Just those 3 things alone can make a huge difference in your life. Above and beyond that, maybe it would really benefit you to take 30 minutes out of your day. Seriously, 30 minutes. You can carve out 30 minutes to go read a book or work on a craft project or just sit in silence. Like, that would be really beneficial. And I feel like those are self-care. Those are investing in yourself. I know at one point in my life, my form of self-care, and I haven't done this in a while, but there are seasons for things. One of my forms of self-care was when I was trying to get my baby down for his nap. He was being really frustrating and it was really challenging, and I had to stand there with him. We broke that habit. I didn't like that. We broke it. But when we were in that phase where I had to stand next to his crib while he fell asleep, I would turn on my phone and I would open up an app and learn Spanish. And it was only 15 or 30 minutes a day, but that was enough to really make some good progress in learning Spanish. So that was a form of self-care to me, something that had to happen every single day because I had to put my kid down for a nap every single day, turned into a self-care moment, an educational moment. So see where you can find those pockets of time to invest in yourself, invest in your mind, invest in your body, invest in your soul. Find ways to plug in to soul self-care. You know, everybody's going to be different. For me, that is being a Christian and finding ways to fit Bible reading into my schedule and finding ways to listen to inspirational speakers that I really like and who challenge me and who help me raise the bar in my own life. And those are important things. So yes, self-care is important. Just don't let it slip into this weird selfish self-care. Make it just about meeting your needs as a human, because that's important too. Just as it's important to pour out yourself for your people, that's also important. So another tip for combating burnout is to build a support system. And this has been a really interesting thing in my life over the last year, especially. I realized that I was relying really heavily on one part of a support system, and I really needed to spread it out a little bit, because when you're putting all of your eggs in one basket, it's not helpful for anybody. So creating a support system sounds really hard. It doesn't have to be as hard as you think it will be, and can be so rewarding when you get it started. One of the ways that I started building a support system was we found a young woman who lived down the road who was homeschooled, and I know she watches these, so hi, Colby. And she's been amazing. She's got a great schedule for us. She's so sweet. She's so kind. I pay her to come help us once a week because we need her desperately. And it helps spread the load across 2 people instead of 1. And it kind of takes some of this mental load off of me, where I can focus on some other tasks, whether it's organizing or cleaning or getting some projects done with work, any of those kinds of things. That was part of the way I built a support system. Other things that I've done is when I realized that I had all of my social support system eggs in one basket, was we joined a local co-op. And that was better than I can ever explain, because it was so helpful for my family to get out, to meet new people, to find other people in their life that they could become friends with. It helped spread my social network out a little bit. And that builds a support system. Now I've got more people in my life that I can rely on, that can rely on me. We can work together. We can exchange services. We can exchange camaraderie. We can exchange stories. And it's been really helpful. Other ways that you can have a support system is by joining your church and participating in that more. I know that sometimes volunteering in those kinds of organizations can get a lot of flack because all of these crazy social media nonsense and documentaries and people talking about things and spreading awareness. But volunteering in a church is a really great way to get involved. It helps build morale amongst you and amongst all the other people you go to church with. It can give you a way to meet new people. It can help expand your support system. And it also gives you this sense of belonging in being invested in something. So if you're not involved in your church, I highly recommend you get involved in your church. Sure, it could be another form of burnout if you're not careful, but it could also be a great source of friendship and support and iron sharpening iron with each other. It could be really great. So something to look into. And finally, you can learn to say no. And that's not something people are very good at. Not all people. There's a lot of people who are good at it, and there's a lot of people who are really bad at it. I would be one of those. I'm very bad at saying no, but I'm learning. I've hit my 30s and now I'm learning. So saying no can be important. It's a great way to combat burnout, and it's a great way to invest more into your family and into the relationships you need to keep when you need to say no to things that are causing too much friction, too much stress, too much draining. Sometimes it has to happen. No fun, but sometimes it has to happen. All right, so as we wrap up today's episode and today's season, I really hope that you're able to take some of these practical tips and apply them to your life. I hope that you are able to combat burnout in your life. I hope you're able to make improvements in your life because you have so much to offer, and I don't want to see you having to put that on pause just because you are stuck in this rut of being tired and overextended and overstimulated and needing a break. So I hope you can plan a break. And I think that by recognizing these signs of burnout and implementing the strategies to help combat it, it's going to really help improve your life as a work-at-home mom, both as an employer, as an employee, and as a parent, and as a wife, and all the other relationships that you have. It can be really helpful. So as we wrap up this season about the balancing act, I hope that you were able to find some nuggets that are helpful. I hope you realize that I don't have it all together and that I'm not talking about this because I'm an expert. I'm talking about it because I'm right there in the trenches with you, and I need help, guys. I need help, and I need support, and I need a support system around me. And that's why I'm doing this, is to help find other women out there who are doing the same things that I'm doing and would really like to find some other work-at-home moms who can come alongside them and link arms, and we can all pull each other up out of the ditches and just walk down the straight and narrow without falling in the ditches. That's what it is. So I hope that you found today's episode helpful. I hope you found this whole season I hope that you found this whole season helpful, and I am really excited to jump into season 2 with you. Stay tuned for the trailer.